Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to learn about virtual machine skill sets. Let's say you want to deploy a platform as a service application. You can do that with Azure App Services. And depending on the load, you can scale your app service into multiple instances. Just like that, when you want to deploy an application that has dependencies on infrastructure level, you can create a virtual machine scale set, and scale set will automatically spin up multiple virtual machines. And the scaling you don't have to worry about. It will be managed by scale set. You deployed an application to app service here. When it comes to virtual machine scale sets, you're not deploying an application, you're deploying a whole image. And scale sets will deploy multiple virtual machines, and all these virtual machines will reside in one virtual network. And today we're going to create a virtual machine image from scratch, and then we're going to create a virtual machine scale set with multiple instances of virtual machines. And after that, we're going to implement a load balancer, and then we are going to allow traffic from public internet into your virtual machines. So the first step is creating an application that will give us the instance name of the virtual machine that the application is running on in that virtual machine scale set. And I have written this sample application, and it is almost a one-line application. As you can see, it's just returning the machine name when you invoke the root of this HTTP endpoint. So the first thing that we should do is we should deploy a virtual machine to Azure, and then we are going to deploy this application, and then we are going to create an image. For that, I'm going into Azure portal, and the first thing is we should create a resource group. So I'm going into resource groups and click create here. And then I'm going to call it VM SS test RG, something like that. Alright, the resource group is ready. The first thing is I'm going to create a virtual machine. Now I'm going to call it and then the region I'm going to select Southeast Asia, and image is okay, the size is okay as well. Username I'm going to call it let's just enable port 80 as well, but this is not needed because we're just going to create this virtual machine and we are going to extract the image, but I'm going to keep it enabled. And I'm going to go, and all these configuration I'm going to keep as default because we're just going to use this VM to create an image. Alright, after like 1 minute we have our virtual machine ready. I'm going into that resource and I'm going to copy this IP address. Alright, I have RDP'd into this virtual machine. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to install IIS server on this virtual machine. So let me do that now. Alright, our web server is ready. Now let me close this. For installing the application that I've shown you earlier, this application, this is a .NET 3.1 application. For installing this, you should have .NET hosting bundle installed on this virtual machine. For that, I'm going into Internet Explorer for downloading it, and before that I'm going to local server and I'm disabling enhanced security configuration here, and let me go to Internet Explorer. Right here we have hosting bundle. Alright, now I'm going into my IIS server here, IIS server manager, and sites, and let me go into the directory, and I'm going to clear this directory, and then I'm going into my Visual Studio. Let me do a publish, and for that I will have to create a new publish profile. I'm going with this folder option, and this folder is okay for me. Let me finish it and click publish. Alright, now if I go into that folder, you will see these things here, and if I go into publish, we have the things that we can deploy into our IIS to run this application. So let me do that now. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to share it. Basically, I'm going to paste it inside here, and then I'm going to extract it like this. Now, if I try to access this website here, as you can see, we are getting the machine name of this virtual machine. Now we have successfully deployed IIS and our sample application in this virtual machine. The next step is creating a image from this virtual machine, and for that, let me close all these windows, and then I'm going into this PC and C drive and Windows and System32 folder, and here we'll have to find a tool called sysprep. This will prepare a VM to be used as a image. This setting, I'm going to keep it as it is. I'm going to click generalize, because generalization of this virtual machine is what we want to achieve. So let me click on shutdown. This is what happens after the VM is ready. Now let me click OK. In around 1 to 2 minutes, you will see this message. When you see this, you can go back to your Azure portal, and here you can stop that virtual machine if it is running. Now let me click refresh here, and I'm going to stop it. Now it's time for us to create the image. Let me click on capture, and then I don't want to share this on image gallery, and then yeah, all these options are looking okay for me because this is not our end goal. So let me click on review and create, and this will create the image for us. Now our image is ready. Let me click on go to resource. As you can see, we have the option to create a new virtual machine with this image, and I'm going back into my resource group. As you can see, we have many resources along with our image. The only thing that we need from now on in this video is the image. Because of that, I'm going to delete all other resources from this resource group. Alright, now that we have a clean resource group, it is time for us to create our scale set. For that, let me search for scale set and click create. Here I'm going to name this VMSS1 and region Southeast Asia is okay for me, and all these configuration here I'm going to keep it as it is. And here you will see the image. If you're not seeing it, you can go to see all images and my images, and here you will see the image that we have just created, and you can select it and the size of those VMs. So basically this will create multiple VMs inside of this scale set. This size is okay for me, and then you have to give a username and password. So basically when we generalized the virtual machine, we have removed all this username, password and this kind of information with sysprep tool. Since we are redeploying those images now, we'll have to give them again. Now let me select the license type as well. We have an option to enable load balancer here as well, but I will be doing that separately. So here when it comes to scaling, I don't want this to automatically scale. We have an option to configure that here as well. The initial instance count I'm going to keep as 2, and then validation is passed. Let me click create here. Alright, as you can see, we have deployed our virtual machine scale set. Now let me go to resource, and here you will see some information. As you can see, we don't have a public IP address, and if you go to instances, you will see the 2 instances of that virtual machine scale set, basically the 2 VMs, and one of them is still updating state. Let me click refresh here. Now as you can see, they're both running. Now it is time for us to create the load balancer to route the web traffic to these VMs and get our response. For that, let me go to the resource group again, and I'm going to create a load balancer. Let me click on create and search for load balancer. Yeah, we are not getting it. Let me search for it. Okay, then yeah, here we have the load balancer service. So let me click on create, and I'm going to name it my LB1, and the region I'm going to keep it as it is. It is going to be a public one, not an internal load balancer. Basically, we are going to access it from the public internet. So for this one, I'm going to keep it as a standard one, and it is not going to be a global load balancer. Now the next thing is, since we are accessing it from the public internet, we have to add this front-end IP configuration. Let me call it FIP, and let me create a new IP address, my public IP address, and then I'm going to click OK. So we have completed our front-end IP configuration. The next step is backend pools. For this, let me add virtual network, and then here you have two options. You can add virtual machines directly, and you can add virtual machine scale sets as well. Now I'm going to select the scale set that we have created, the IP address as well of that NIC. Now let me add this. As you can see, we have the two virtual machine instances listed under backend pool 1. Now let me go into inbound rules. We are writing a rule that will route our HTTP traffic that hits our load balancer to our virtual machines. For that, I'm going to click add a load balancer rule. Let me call it rule 1, and IPv4 front-end IP address is the one that we have just created, and port is 80, and the backend port is also 80. Now backend pool is the one that we are creating, and we have to create a health probe. For that, let me call it health probe 1, and the protocol is HTTP is okay, and port 80, and path is the root. Interval is every 5 seconds. Unhealthy threshold is 2. These are all okay for me. Let me click OK. Now I don't want any session persistence, and all these configurations are okay for me. Let me click add here. Alright, our inbound rules are ready, and here you can configure outbound rules as well, but that's not needed for this demo. Now let me click create. As you can see, our load balancer is ready. Now let's go to this load balancer and see the configurations. And if you go here to front-end IP configurations, you will see this IP here. If you try to access it, as you can see, we are not able to access our virtual machines. So what we are missing here is that we haven't added the NSG rule to our virtual machine interface cards. So now let me go to that resource group again, and then I'm going into, so basically if you look here, we have one network security group, and if you go inside of that security group and if you go into interfaces, you will see that both of my virtual machine interface cards are connected to this network security group. And if you go to inbound security rules here, you won't see any rule here that allows HTTP traffic to it. And because of that, let me add a rule here. As you can see here, I'm going to keep all these settings as default, but you should do it if it is a production environment. You should maybe add this virtual network only or this IP address only. So let me go and change this service to HTTP because that is what we are trying to access. Let me click add. Alright, as you can see, we have our network security group ready. Now let me go back to this tab and reload it. See, it is still not working because you have to wait for some time for this change that we have done to affect the virtual network. So let's wait for some time and see what happens. Alright, I have been waiting here for some time, but it is still not working. Let's troubleshoot why this happens. So let me go into this virtual machine skill set and instances. Here you will see there's a message saying not the latest model. So we'll have to upgrade this virtual machine to the latest model. So for that, I'm going into each of those VMs and I'm going to click upgrade here. Alright, we have upgraded the first virtual machine. Now let me go back to the list and let's try to refresh it. No issues there, and let's upgrade this one as well. Alright, now let's go back and try to see whether this works. Yeah, as you can see, we are getting this message, and if you look here, we are getting the computer name because that's what we are returning from our ASP.NET application. As you can see, this is the name. So let's see what happens if I go ahead and maybe restart this virtual machine. Let's wait for some time. As you can see, I'm getting a service unavailable one as well, and then we are getting the response from our next virtual machine. If you have any questions or comments, let me know down below. Please subscribe if you think you learned something new today, and thanks for watching.